On the first day of fall, we have Kyle Sinclair, congressional candidate for District 20, visiting the Republican Party of Bexar County. Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks, sir. Glad to
Good
be
to
here,
see
and
you.
always good to be here in the GOP headquarters.
To get us started, what is your goal as congressman from District 20?
Yeah, I'd say number one, the biggest thing for me is just being available and present in the district. And I think many people, as I've been in the district, have realized that Castro's not here. So that's number one, just be present, being available. I think from actual things I want to work on, number one would be securing our border. That's the number one issue across this country. San Antonio is a big focal point of that. So that's giving resource, training, equipment, money, funding to the Border Patrol. And I can go into a lot of specifics, but that's my number one thing is securing our border. And I think right on the back of that is immigration reform. We've got to fix our problem. We know it's an issue. That's a big one. The second one I'd say is the economy. We've got to fix our economy. I continue to say it's a broke nation. America is broke. And you need people with fiscal conservative that understand that you can't spend your way out of inflation, and you continue to this reckless spending and taxing the American people is ridiculous. Number three is a big passion of mine is healthcare. We've got to do some massive changes to healthcare. I keep sharing it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, black, white, financial status. You come into this world touching healthcare, you touch it all through your life, and you leave this world touching healthcare. And you need people in D.C. that understand healthcare and are able to fix it. So those are three big ones. There's a lot of other issues and things that I'd like to work on and be a part of.
Okay, let's get a little more personal at this point and tell us a little bit about yourself as an individual, your background, your education, and anything that's pertinent on the personal side.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great. Thank you for asking that. And I haven't, I've been doing this 13 months now, and that's been I think a factor that I haven't had the opportunity to kind of explain my whole story. So I'll start off. I'm a native Texan, born and raised in the Houston area. Grew up in Katy. That's Old Katy. I graduated from the Old Katy High School, the powerhouse football of the state of Texas. My parents still live in Katy, Texas. And I spent about 25 years in the Houston, Katy area. I went to 2 years of community college from there in Katy area. From there, I went and finished my undergrad at Weber State in Ogden, Utah. That's a bachelor's in health administration. I played a little bit of college ball. I was the only walk-on they took in 4 years, and I had a lot of fun for about a year playing basketball. Realized I wasn't going to get a scholarship, so I joined the military. So from there, I joined the Army ROTC and commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army National Guard as a medical service corps officer in Army National Guard. I spent roughly about almost a little under 4 years in the National Guard serving our country in that capacity. Eventually stayed in Utah, moved to Idaho when I graduated, spent about a year and a half in Idaho. From there, came back to San Antonio. So Texas. I've been in San Antonio since 2009. For those of you who don't know, I have a blended family, which means I went through a divorce. So in about 2010, went through a divorce, unfortunately, and found my wife about a year and a half later. We married and have a big blended family of 8 kids. So she's a native San Antonian. I'm fairly, like I said, 2009, but continued to stay in healthcare, working everything from home health to hospitals. Eventually ended up getting my master's of health administration from Ohio University in 2016. And then from there went into hospital administration. So I started becoming CEO of a hospital, which was Kindred LTAC, and now Warm Springs Hospital. So I've been in healthcare for just under 20 years and in the community. So, about my family, I mean, we're just a salt of the earth type family. I mean, we love going to church on Sunday. I got kids in ag. I got kids playing football and violin and horseback riding, and just a typical busy family and trying to do what's right in the community, loving life and enjoying what we do. So that's a gist. There's a lot of stuff there, but I mean that's really the gist of who I am. I'm humble. I'm honored to be the Republican nominee. I'm honored to be here. And most people don't know me, and they haven't known me even since I've been in 2009. The healthcare world is different, but in the political world they haven't. And to that side of it, Jeff, I mean I was a 4-year voting member of Citizen and voted every 4 years for the presidential election, but was never involved in primaries, never involved in party. I mean, it wasn't until the 2020 election that I saw what was going on and said, you know what, and felt it. We need to get involved, and finally had enough urge and drive internally in my heart and through God to get out and to get involved. So I started, you know, if you want to answer a question, but I can keep sharing, but.
Well, I think you lead into sort of an interesting question, which is sort of why did you run for Congress or choose to run for Congress?
Yeah, so the why is, and I'll share in detail, and I've had several times where I've shared it. The why goes like this. So I started seeing what was going on, started getting involved in a congressional campaign, started getting involved in the Republican Party of 2020, started attending, you know, GOP events and Republican events, and felt that urge. And as I was getting involved, I think that was God's hand moving me in that direction. And because again, and I've shared this multiple times, my story goes, I felt impressed to run for office, and my answer to God was hell no. I have no interest to be a politician. I'm a CEO of a hospital. I have a big family. I've blended love and life. My wife's nurse. I mean, life was great. And I literally said, hell no, I'm not. I have no interest in it. And then a few weeks later, that kicking of the pricks and that inclination came back. And finally I listened. Okay, I'll get involved. And from there it was, like I said, getting involved to the party to just progress and get involved in all the clubs, and then saying, you know what, I'm launching. And so I was looking at 122 at the time, and actually met with a realtor to put my house on the market to move into State District 122, because you have to live in that district. And at that time, it just didn't feel right. It wasn't working. My wife was like, I don't want to move. And so she's like, why don't you run against Castro? And from there, it was a light bulb, and it clicked, and it felt right, and it worked. And from there, it started moving, started meeting campaign managers, started building my team, and launched my campaign. So from getting involved about August of 2020 to about August of 2021, when I launched my campaign pretty aggressively. But you know why? Is because I love our country. I've served American military. I have a beautiful family. I love America. I love the freedom, love the Constitution, love what we stand for. And it was seeing the decline in our freedoms being taken away at an alarming rate. And it was something that obviously I knew I could take care of and stand up for and have no issues and won't back down. It's the fight and the drive to protect the freedoms in this country for my children, your children, our grandchildren, and very clearly agree with Ronald Reagan's stating of, you know, we're one generation away from losing our freedoms. And from then it's got to be taught by, you know, by bloodshed. So it is something that you have to fight for after you lose it. And those are a lot of key factors. And of course, I started to develop who I was politically as I, you know, went through that process. And, you know, I became a student of politics for roughly about 2 years. Still to this day, about 3 to 4 hours every single day, staying up on current topics, following, learning, teaching. And I have about a half a dozen sitting members of Congress that I speak to regularly that mentor me. I have many people that are advising my campaign on issues, and have a strategic team around that to make sure I speak eloquently and know what I'm talking about. And that's a big thing. I don't want to be a career politician, so I have no interest in it. And because of that, I want to fight like hell for America, for this country, for District 20, for San Antonio. And when I feel like I'm not effective or that people don't want, I will step aside and move on, because I don't have an interest to be a career politician.
Are there any issues or things in Washington, D.C. that disturb you itself? And what are they, and how would you deal with them?
Yeah, there's a significant amount of issues, Jeff, and I think everything from the border, it is a federal responsibility, and it is Congress to act. Unfortunately, we have a president who does not. But everything from issues from spending, wasteful spending, there's issues with, you know, obviously fentanyl and human trafficking that go along with the border. We have issues in regards to many aspects of the bills and some of the issues that are relevant right now that continue to push. Guns, we know that's a big issue. Abortions has become a national, federal issue. And
yeah, I was sort of looking if there were a top three that you have in mind, and maybe a little more depth regarding what those three are and how you would expect to hopefully deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, the first one is the border, and I know you keep bringing it back down on the state level, but it is a national issue. So anybody who goes to Congress, like, look, I'll give you an example. Congressman Castro supports an open border. He votes that way. Any legislation that comes down on a national level, he will continue to shoot down if it's talking about securing the border. So yes, it's a state issue, and yes, there's a lot that goes on with the state, but that is a national issue. That includes funding for the Border Patrol. That includes resources to them. That includes any laws that are associated with immigration. Again, separate issues, but very closely tied together. So that is a big factor. So for me is, yeah, I can look at issues and work closely with state legislative, but it's also how you vote from the congressional level. And when we take back the House, that is a huge priority for this country in regards to congressional oversight for Mayorkas and many people that were involved from the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol and everything up in U.S. level. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors of how I will vote. What I can bring to that is a love of trying to secure our border and voting that way.
With the concentration of power, with the concentration of money in Washington, D.C., do you think that is a corruptive factor that has hurt our nation in total?
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you, my first experience as a congressional candidate going to D.C. Was the end of November, beginning of December. And for me, that, again, Pelosi had shut down the Capitol, so most people working, on their perspective. And then on the Republican side, you have Capitol Hill Club. And for those of you who have or haven't been there, it's a 4-level building, literally from basement and 3 levels above. And the most ironic thing for me, there were hundreds of lobbyists and dozens of congressmen and senators coming and going. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, after-hour parties. And I walked away after I left about 3 or 4 days later. I've experienced that from a congressional candidate side that's where DC is made. That's where the decisions are made. And there's a lot of factors of lobbyists and special interest groups that pull through donations and giving so that they vote a certain way. So yeah, it's a major factor and issue in our country.
Going back to the border, we know there's a problem there. What are 3 actions that you would suggest being done to solve the problem, and how would they be implemented?
I think number 1, remain in Mexico. I know the Supreme Court didn't like that and ruled against it, but I think remain in Mexico. Number 2 is we've got to fix the asylum seekers. As this current administration believes everybody who comes across the southern border are true asylum seekers, which is allowing millions to come in. They're not asylum seekers. I've spoken to hundreds that have come into San Antonio. I think also resources in regards to, a lot of people realize when Biden stopped the wall, he also stopped the resources that went to the wall. That means lights, sensors, and other aspects that happen to the wall. So I think we need to get funding. I will tell you, instead of doing 87,000 IRS agents, we need 87,000 Border Patrol agents. We know right now in this current administration, that 80% of the Border Patrol agents are not in the field. 80% of them are behind doing the prior day's catch. So you have about 20% of the actual Border Patrol force that actually are doing their job, catching, apprehending, stopping, and trying to fix the problems at the border. So here's what's going on right now. Every administration averages about 1 million to 1.5 million legal immigrants every single year. Without fail, every president does that. Even right now in the Biden administration, there are processed about 1 million to 1.5 million legal immigrants. Every single year, they do it the right way, they get citizenship, etc. But the difference is you have that illegal immigration.
Do you have any closing remarks before we get into sort of the closing phase here? Let's get out and vote for Kyle Sinclair.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closing remark would be, again, I'm excited, I'm humbled to be part of the process of democracy. I believe in a fair, transparent election. Most of you know I did a poll watching course a couple weeks ago and strongly believe that that's the greatest responsibility we have as a citizen of the United States, is to vote that way. I do believe this quote-unquote red wave is values. And it is values that are driving people to the polls. It's values that are driving people to push, because we all see what is going on. We know that this country is under attack. We know the freedoms of this country are under attack. We know the Constitution is under attack. And it takes us as conservative Republicans to continue to push, to fight for the freedoms and the Constitution, to make sure that this is still the greatest country this world has ever seen. We've got a lot of issues. We've got a lot of issues that we can spend all day talking back and forth on, Jeff and I talked about a few of them, not a whole lot, but the reality is that we've got to stand together, united, and fix our problems as a country. And the only way we can do that is continue to push conservative values and to continue to support our Republican nominees that have been taking that stance. So,
Do you believe the 2020 election was conducted in the spirit of the constitutional republic?
I think they tried, of course. I think, issues in regards to middle of the night, putting windows and shades up, and all of a sudden, they close down elections and push them out. There's a lot of issues in the 2020 election. From the national level, we still see it ongoing. I saw it in my primary election in 2022, which is why I called that poll watching class and doing that. So I think there are significant issues in our country from a national level all the way down to our local level. You and I have talked about it. I've talked about it with Attorney General Paxton's office. The DAs have a significant impact to what happens in elections in counties. They control what goes on in the state of Texas. So even if I see fraud, even if I see it, even if we do a recount, if the DA does not pick up that case, then there's not much we can do. And that's why George Soros has invested. That's why the race between Mark LaHood and Gonzalez is so significant to this county, because the impact it has across the entire city and every race. So, but to answer your question, yes, I do see significant issues. Yes, I've seen 2,000 mules, and yes, I think there's a lot of fraud and a lot of issues going on. Will we ever find out the complete details? That time will tell. I don't know. But I don't agree with how it was handled. I think it needs to be very transparent. I think you need to have oversight of both parties so that neither one can cheat. And that's what I support. That's what I'm for. And I think the American people deserve that. That way I can trust and respect. Look, and I've said it from day one, if I get outvoted and the people vote Castro over me, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I fought like hell. Don't get me wrong. I fought like hell. I worked very hard to bring conservative values. At the end of the day, if the people decide that that's who they want, that's their decision. But I will not be cheated. That's the difference. Mm-hmm. And for me, that I will trust the democracy and that process of the vote, as long as there's complete transparency, and I know that it's won fair and square. So there's some big issues across the country we've got to fix, and everybody knows that.
As chairman of the Republican Party, I want to encourage everybody out there to help Kyle Sinclair get elected, and also to tell Kyle that one of my promises in the campaign was to rejuvenate the election integrity under the party. And we are going to do everything within our capabilities to make sure that all the elections conducted in Bexar County are conducted according to the rule of law and the dictates from the Secretary of State. Now, we do know we're going to have issues and we have obstructions that are keeping us to be able to feel comfortable that I can tell you 100% that you're going to have a fair election. So I suggest keep your vigilance. Yeah. It's going to be very important. So again, everybody, Kyle will close out here and explain to you how he could use your help in getting elected. And this is Jeff McManus, Chairman of the Republican Party, encouraging you to vote for Kyle Sinclair. We endorse him 100%.
Thank you. I'll end with KyleFor20.com is the website. We're all over social media. What I'm hearing on the streets is absolutely amazing. I haven't had to share the story. There's been several instances I want to share a couple stories on with. Number one, there was a meeting I went to about 3, maybe 4 months ago and got through speaking as a candidate, and somebody beeline for me. As a lady, she beeline for me, and she said, Kyle, I've been praying for 4 years that somebody like you would run for office like this. There's another instance I want to share. Was at the election during the primary, and she walked by and said, you're the healthcare candidate, and we talked for a few minutes, and then she went in and voted. About 30 minutes later, she came out and she said, you're the first Republican I have ever voted for in my entire life. And we are seeing that across the board. So those you are hearing, come join our team. We have block walking pretty much every single weekend. It is amazing to talk to the constituents of District 20. They love the conservative values because they believe in faith, family, and freedom. They believe in that. They feel it and they know that. And by sharing our conservative message, we get the opportunity to turn people from that would vote Democrat that are now voting Republican. This race is purple and it will be flipped red. And come November 8th, I will be your congressman for District 20. So God bless you guys. God bless your family. Thank you so much for your support, your help. Come get involved in this race, and we're excited to see you at the next event. Thank you so much.